Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. We just crossed 10 years of Gospel Tech being a ministry. That is wild. So we're going to take a moment and I want to walk through what the Lord has done. And if you're new to this ministry, I want to just help you catch the vision of where we've come from, like how we got to be this that we are right now, and where we believe the Lord is taking us. Gospel Tech, we want to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And from our love of God, then, that's going to affect the tech we use, both what tech and how we use it. So we are going to use all the tech that produces good fruit. If I can use tech and it helps me look more like Jesus, I'm going to use it and I'm going to offer it to my kids. And if there's tech that doesn't, I'm going to faithfully hold that with open hands. Say, okay, maybe this is just a tech I need to put better boundaries around or manage a little better. Or maybe this tech is inherently unhealthy and unsafe for me. Maybe I have bad habits that I have to trust the Lord to be better than, and I'm going to cut it off and gouge it out. This is the journey we've been on with Gospel Tech. But it didn't start there. So it's 10 years. We're going to talk about three things today. First, we're going to celebrate what the Lord has done. Then I'm going to kind of set this vision for where we believe we're headed. And I'll explain a little why it has to be the we believe we're headed. And then third, invite you to continue to be on this journey with us, because you're watching this, you're listening to this, like that's a big deal. So first, a little celebration. 2016, this nonprofit started. It was called Flint and Iron. Flint and Iron started from my time in the public school classroom here in Washington State and my passion to see young people reach their full potential. So Flint and Iron, the idea was sparking positive purpose in youth. I was doing school assemblies and I was giving basically the talks I gave in my own classroom. I just really had a passion for reaching more kids than my 33 kids I had every day. It's a beautiful thing to be in a classroom, and this conversation was beginning to distract what I had signed on a contract that I would teach. 8th grade language arts, and I was kind of getting through that too quickly, and so I could talk to them about life and character and choices, and really three things. First, that little choices matter. Second, that everyone's got potential. Doesn't mean everyone's going to get straight A's, by the way, but it means you have potential as God's designed that for you. Sometimes I didn't get to say that part out loud, but you have potential. God's made you on purpose. So I want you to achieve everything God has designed you to achieve. And then third and finally, that making a mistake doesn't make you a mistake. That everyone's got potential and it's never too late to be great, because we all do the thing people told us not to do at some point. Biblically, it's called sin, and experientially, you ask any group of children or adults, have you ever done the wrong thing? They'll all say yes. Have you ever done the wrong thing on purpose? They'll all say yes. And if you want to add it, you can ask them, have you ever done the wrong thing on purpose more than once? The room will say yes. Especially, I've noticed elementary, junior high school, they just start staring at you and wondering where the narc is in the room. So be careful in your audience. They will think it's a trap. But it's not a trap. It's the beginning of a conversation, because we have to assume you've done the wrong thing before. So I'm not just going to say the secret to life is never do anything wrong, because it's already too late for any room you're talking to. Instead, we begin with, I'm going to assume you've done the wrong thing. And you may have done it on purpose repeatedly. What do we do now? What does it look like to move forward and not own this idea that I'm damaged goods or I am a mistake? This was the goal behind Flint and Iron. And I did that for 3 years, 2016, 17, 18, into 19. And in 2019, that was my last year of teaching in the classroom. So Flint and Iron was a nonprofit. We prayerfully chose at that point to follow where the Lord is convicting us. And it was a difficult season. At that point, Ann and I, let's see, what was that I said, 2019? So we'd been married something like 13, going on 14 years. We had young children. Hadley was just born at this point. And I think by the time I quit, she was 3 months old. And we went in full-time nonprofit work. For about 6 months, it made a lot of sense. We did a fundraiser in the backyard of my sister's house. People showed up. It was very gracious, very encouraging. People were very prayerful. We had this heart for bringing the gospel into the conversation, and a lot of churches and Christian families asking for that. So Flint and Iron was still a thing, and Gospel Tech became a ministry of Flint and Iron for how can we specifically communicate this to Christian families and help them apply the gospel, the good news that God saves sinners and calls them as sons and daughters on mission for his kingdom work. Like, this was awesome. And then 2020 hit. And in February, go back and look at this podcast. I still haven't culled the old episodes. Episode 1 is still on. You can still hear our fridge running in the background. Anna and I are talking on opposite sides of the same microphone because that was the day I realized you can't use 2 USB microphones on the same computer to record 2 different people. Oops. It was a very intimate recording process, just faces inches from each other. And we began this podcast with the hope of equipping families to use the best tech well. We had no idea where that would lead. COVID hit, everything collapses. Here in the Northwest, COVID lasted a little longer than in other places. I know when I, talk to my friends in Texas or whatever, they're like, yeah, COVID, it was like 3 months. Not up here. Up here, it was like a year and a half. And it was 3-month kind of chunks. And then you'd have like 6 weeks of going back to church and seeing your friends and maybe school starting, and then months again without anything. And it was for a long time. To the point where when we ended COVID, people up here had a lot of questions about what does it look like to use tech well. And that is the background to bringing us here 10 years later in year of our Lord 2026. Gospel Tech is a ministry to help equip families, teachers, pastors to use the best tech well and to raise a generation who can love God and from their love of God use tech. So as we celebrate, last year we did a fundraiser again. It was awesome, very encouraging. We raised something like 2/3, almost 3/4 of our funding for the annual budget at the fundraiser. That's ridiculous to say out loud. And such a blessing, because then I get to spend my year doing the work, not going around and donor raising and fundraising. So at that fundraiser, it's like, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to equip families to help their kids use the best tech well. 2 days later, I'm at a major tech company here in Washington State. I'm talking with a family's ERG, the employee resource group, and we were talking about how do we use the best tech well. And these parents are saying, yeah, we design tech that families use, but like that doesn't mean we know how to parent it. And it was very humbling. There were some incredibly bright people in the room, a lot of brain power, and some very simple things that I could help them with from my teaching time, from my own parenting, and then from my experience helping other parents. Like, hey, there's 2 kinds of tech, and reset matters, and build some hedges. Make sure the tech you give your kids is safe and that they're ready for it and that the outcome is good. Like, these are all things I got to say. We finished that and we're like, man, this is awesome. We love seeing people equipped to do the job they want to do, which is be a good parent. Flash forward a couple months. December hits. And there's a verse where it talks about the plans belong to man, but God establishes his steps. It's Proverbs 16. Turns out we had a beautiful plan. And we were like, we're going to equip some families. We're going to help some kids. And we did, because in December, my 6th grade son's teacher stepped out of the classroom, and I had the opportunity, wasn't planned, but it did work out, to step into the classroom. So I got to begin teaching in January. I taught January through June, a 6th grade class at a small Christian school here in the Northwest, and it was amazing. I got to see hands-on every single day the life of a 6th grader. Yes, I get to see my own, but it's always different when you're dealing with other people's kids. This is why I send my child to school, so that other people who love my child can speak into his life and speak to things that they see, both that God is doing in his heart and areas of his character and his choices where God is continuing to work and he needs to listen to God faithfully in that. I got to do that for other people's kids and really got 3 things out of this. Probably the most important that I was surprised by is that parenting and teaching are very similar. We're always speaking to who our child can be. And as a teacher, you get to do the same thing. You get to see a child and be like, here's who you could be in Christ. I'm not speaking to who you are right now, right? Jesus and Zacchaeus, Jesus and Peter, Jesus and any of his disciples, Jesus and you and me, right? He's not speaking to the broken individual and condemning the mistakes we're making right now. He does do that. And he speaks to the child he's calling us to be. That is the message from the cross. I'm taking your death so that you can have life, not purely condemning all the bad people out there. I'm dying to show you how bad it's going to be for you. That's not the message of the gospel. It's there. Sin is real. Hell is real. Jesus talks about it more than anyone else. And redemption is real. And God's desire is that all would be saved, and we know that not all will be. The call then is for every young person to put their faith in Christ, and we call them to their character, we call them to their choices, and we can call them in their learning process, because kids will give up on themselves at the drop of a hat, and we get to call them back to believe in their potential, even when they don't believe in it. So parenting, teaching, very similar. We also can learn, and what I learned from the classroom this year is that we can raise kids to use the best tech well. Sometimes that means adding the right tech. In my class, you've heard me talk about this before, Khan Academy, free online program that allows you to learn a number of things, but we used it for math. And I saw kids grow leaps and bounds because they were able to learn in very deliberate little steps the math that they were so afraid of. And they started learning, yeah, math can be hard, but I can also do it. And they gained that confidence. We also learned that tech has its limits, and we actually went significantly lower tech. So we would use tablets to do things like Khan Academy, but by and large in our day, tech would be away. It actually wouldn't even be every day. We went down to like 2 days a week probably where we used Khan Academy, unless they were students who were ahead of their work and had finished their other kind of protocol. You've done your reading, you've done your other stuff. Now you can go and use this tech and not distract your peers with it. But we found that I had to print a lot like the social studies curriculum. I had to print it for a number of reasons. I actually wrote them down here. I love that it's always high resolution. Students would always complain that their screen was too small, and if you zoom, like it gets all wonky, or that it wasn't bright enough. So we had that high res paper, right? Just paper in 4K all the time. It had a long battery life. The number of times students' tablets would die because they thought it was plugged in, or someone else had used it the previous day and forgotten to plug it in, or whatever. The thing's still dead. They can't participate in learning because we're literally doing the assessments through their tablets. Or I have 6 kids around the one outlet in the back of the room. They're like plugged in the computer cart and like all trying to reach their tablets. They're locked into a single window that's ad free. There is no tabs on a packet. They have to just do the one task. There's no opening a second window and doing whatever they want. If I introduced a new unit online and a student missed class, I have to generally either assign a student to show that student or show them myself. And that ended up just being brutal. And these students who missed typically missed more than once. And so now they're generally students who are going to struggle with their focus online anyway. This is a broad brush, but this was true with my class. And having a packet where they know how to find it, and they show up and they go and check that spot to see if there was anything they missed yesterday, and they just pick up the physical packet and they bring it to their physical desk. And when I go and ask later, hey, did you do that work? And they say yes, I can say show me, and they don't have to take out a tablet and power it on and go find the share folder and find the thing like, oh no, you know what? It was that other thing. And now it's been 6 minutes. And oh, by the way, it's low battery. Now the thing's going to die. Like the packets solve so many problems. So hear me. We added tech in some places because it was super beneficial for this particular group in this learning environment. And we removed it. I would say it was a 20/80. We went really intense on Khan Academy and we drew down almost all the other tech that these kids were using because we can raise them to use the best tech well. We don't have to be scared of it. And the third lesson I had was that healthy tech begins at home. I mentioned those kids that were gone a lot. Those kids typically had the worst health habits or tech hygiene, if you will, when it came to just the way they were used to using it. The school did a nice job of putting parental controls on these devices. These devices were safe. We never had a situation with looking up something unkind or someone being mean through their technology, but it was a small group of kids who had bad habits, and they use those bad habits when they're supposed to be doing something else. Some of them would just open new tabs and just constantly be looking at distracting content. They would all got through the school filters, but like it was distracting. They used it to distract themselves, and the kids that could see their screen were also distracted. Parents, as we strive to raise kids who love God and use tech, it's intimidating to look at this next stage of life and think about what academics may look like for them. When you're thinking about college, consider George Fox University for your children because of 3 things. First, it's going to give you a more intimate, known environment where they have a focus on being known personally, academically, and spiritually. Your child will grow in their faith. 93% of undergrad students at George Fox last year, through the 2025 academic year, said that being at George Fox has helped them grow in their relationship with Jesus. We also want them to grow academically, which means being a part of a university with rigorous academic standards and opportunities to be engaged. They have nationally recognized engineering, nursing, and education programs, as well as chances to study abroad here within the U.S. and then internationally. And finally, personally, to be part of a vibrant campus atmosphere where you can play intramural sports or part of their NCAA Division III athletic programs with 23 sports available. The goal here is to go to a place that's going to support your goals, not try to make you support theirs. To have that goal be to raise you up to be all God's called you to be, and to truly equip your young person with in my case, my sons or my daughter, to love God, and then from their love of God to go wherever God has called them. And that includes being equipped with a degree that'll help them do that, to be missionally equipped to love and serve others, to lead where God has planted them, and to know the gospel for themselves and be able to share it with others. So George Fox University is an amazing resource for our kids, for our community here in the Northwest, and for anyone who's looking to raise up a young person who can love God and from that, love others. Good tech hygiene starts at home. It starts with modeling it for our children to show this is the time and place and way we use technology, to put hedges around technology that helps build healthy habits, and to put boundaries around our children's technology so that the bad habits they form are generally behavioral and they're not actually, they're not trained and they're not hormonal. There is content that our children are wired to be interested in, and that is incredibly toxic and damaging and can build lifelong struggles for them if they're able to repeat this behavior. So we want to be deliberate with starting healthy tech at home. Go listen to those episodes where we talk about building hedges around our devices, network, and family, or how to know if there's a healthy reset and those things. But that was when I thought about school this year. I'll just end with this idea that there's great hope for this generation. I know we can be hard on them, and I know it's scary to raise kids in the age of the internet when video games can be unsafe with the adults, thinking of Roblox specifically, when AI is at front and center of the learning environment and of the workforce and of what the future of our world might look like. But the gospel doesn't change, and God isn't scared of their technology. And there's no amount of damage we can do to our children that puts them beyond the reach of the good news of the gospel. So I'm not forgiving big tech. And by big tech, I mean, if you're a $1 trillion company that can ignore what the market wants simply by sheer force and volume of your production, no one has asked for your product, and yet you will make it anyway, and it will turn a profit whether we like it or not. Like, that's wild. You're big tech in that category. Big tech will continue to produce things that are harmful for kids because it turns a profit. With that in mind, though, we can see this young generation turning their hearts to the Lord. And the Lord is not scared of this technology. We remember that he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. And that we want to then remember that the gospel message is we were sinners, but God, Ephesians 2:4. So remember that, but God, for our kids in this tech. Remember that our kids have great potential in Christ, and that we do not have to be afraid of the tech that's out there. That doesn't mean we don't discern. Video games have themes and have messaging that can lie to our kids about their identity. Social media actively lies by design, specifically Instagram, TikTok, and parts of YouTube, lies to our children about what gives them value, what success looks like, what beauty looks like. But also the shows and the music we listen to can lie about what is true, what is reality, what is good and pure and worthy of praise. Like, these are lies. We do need to call them out because they're lies. They do not line up with the greater reality of God's kingdom and of the world God has made and is calling us to. And we don't have to be afraid of it. Okay, so then what's our vision? If we're celebrating that God used the classroom this past year to help me see what parents go through on the daily, and then also to encourage all of us that there is great hope for these young people, what's our vision for this year? It's reaching families with even tighter, I would call it, resources, more applicable to their daily lives. This podcast is one of the resources we've done now for years. We're going on year 7. This is episode 340 something. And if you're doing one a week, like, there you are, that's 7 years. So we're going to keep doing the podcast. We've partnered with Christian Ministries here in Washington State. They run Spirit 105.3, KCIS. They're helping us continue to reach families both through radio and through podcast lands, and helping us build our digital resources to the point where you're going to see us more on things like YouTube. And if you want to support us with that, you can go to gospeltech.net/donate and help us fund the marketing, basically, that has to go into reaching people in digital spaces. The way I think of it is we are trying to pre-digest both the gospel and healthy tech choices so that when families get it and they're pinned on their stress levels, because real life is happening all around them and they're worried about their tech, they generally go to Google before they go to God. They don't know the Bible verse, but they do know their kids and they know that something's wrong. They're going to Google that problem and they're going to look for a solution. And I have 30 to 90 seconds to win their hearts and minds and tell them not only that there is hope, but there's something they can do today that's not glib, that's not explained in a way, that's not blaming technology, and that isn't overwhelming them with to-do steps. Again, this podcast, I love it, and I hope it's helping you. And there are people that simply can't sit down or walk for 27 minutes and take this. So we want to get messaging to people where they can use it on platforms we believe in. Right now, I'm not going to be on TikTok because I dislike it that much. Other people are doing good work there. I just don't believe the juice is worth the squeeze for this particular message. But we will be on other platforms. And if the Lord convicts me and I have to get over my pride or something and just be on TikTok to help people, we will do that. But it's going to be prayerful, and I'm not there right now. We are going to continue to have that vision to fight for our children, not with them when it comes to tech. We want to fight for them. Even if it's on their behalf and they don't want us to fight for them, we're going to continue to say no to things that would hurt them when they ask us for an egg. We're going to make sure it's an egg, not a scorpion, and not give them bad gifts when they're asking for good ones. So we're going to keep making these resources. Digital marketing is going to be one of those. But probably our biggest project right now is Anna's working. I don't love to tease things that aren't out yet, but this is like, it's in third edits right now. Anna's making a workbook for Gospel Center Tech, the book that I wrote 2 years ago. It's a small group study book. You can do it on your own. You can do it with your family. You can do it with a church small group. But the idea is we want to fit into the rhythms people have. And every single church that I have visited across the nation does 6 to 8 week studies. This is an 8-week study. I love the 8-week study because while I am passionate about our 90-minute live workshops, it's 90 minutes once. And I can't come back to Florida 4 weeks later for everyone I speak to. Like, that just doesn't work. Like, not at this phase of life. It's just untenable. It's too expensive. But we can make an online workshop that you can watch on your own time, that you can watch with your peers, that has a workbook that will walk you through 8 parts of this conversation. We're going to cover all the basics: the gospel, the 2 types of tech, how to know if it's healthy, how to build hedges, social media, video games, pornography. Like, we're going to be addressing all the things that we need to talk about in little bite-sized chunks, 5 to 8 minute videos, along with a workbook that will help people process it. So the Gospel Center Tech online workshop is coming. We are actively working on it. I've got transcripts for 4 out of the 8 videos done. Like, it's coming down the pipe. So that's why I mentioned that, because that vision of making that resource is to support the vision of making sure every family has access to this, of making it smaller, tighter, pre-digested. We've done a lot of the legwork and the question asking based on what other parents have asked. And now we just want to deliver the goods. We want to deliver the things you need in order to parent your kids well. So we're excited about that. Live talks are still happening. That's all great. And then the digital outreach on top of the workbook and the online workshop. So that's our vision for 2026. Now, our vision for 2027 didn't involve 6 months of classroom teaching. Who knows where the Lord will lead us, but we do know that wherever he takes us, he is faithful. When we talk about this ministry, I do need to be very clear. I mentioned briefly, this started with a fundraiser back in 2019 when I quit teaching that we did in my sister's backyard. And it has continued to be a donor-supported ministry. Yes, we charge for talks. That's that other kind of quarter of the budget that we bring in is what we make from talks. When we sell books, the books go back to buying more books and making those available to people. Like, this is a ministry run by the people that it supports and by a lot of people saying, I believe in this. I want this to go forward to more people and helping us do that. That's where we get our funding, for example, for digital marketing. It's people saying, we believe in this. We want other people to hear about it and giving us the opportunity, because guess what? Word of mouth is awesome. And on YouTube, you don't get very far without paying YouTube for the opportunity to reach other people. That's wild. I don't like it, but that is the way it goes. The same on any of Meta's platform and basically any social media that's out there right now. So that's how this ministry is currently working. We are so grateful for the opportunity to do this work. And there's 3 ways you can join us. First, pray. Pray that the Lord opens hearts and doors. Pray that God gives us the wisdom, the discernment, and the patience to follow his steps and not get impatient and try to just quote unquote, make a difference. I've tried that before. It's a terrible idea. It leaves me very burned out and cynical. Instead, we wait on the Lord, and he does wild stuff like get us to teach for 6 months. He does wild stuff like open relational doors, because that's the second one. The first is pray for us. Pray that we have wisdom, discernment, patience, and provision. The second is connect us. This Christian Ministries connection came because one of our friends was like, hey, you know what? I know someone up there. Could I put you in contact? We had a phone call, and that was 4 years ago. They're an amazing team of people who love the Lord and want to see his kingdom work come in this greater Seattle area. And Lord knows we need that. If you want to support someone, support Christian Ministries. They're doing great work. They have a school, they've got the radio ministry, the podcast ministry. They do awesome stuff. You can connect us with people at organizations. That's how I got in at Microsoft. Someone put my name into a hat, and the flint and iron side of the conversation is what I had there. It's still equipping people. It's what Charles Spurgeon would call tip of the spear evangelism. You're bringing light into dark places because you're acknowledging that kids matter, that there is good and bad. I have yet to meet an atheist who's indifferent about the health of their child because we're all accidents and nothing really matters. Like at a spiritual intrinsic level, they know my kid is valuable and this is wrong because it hurts them. Like, great, let's start there. I will start with that amount of truth and have the conversation with you. So connect us with your corporation, with your workplace, with your school, with your church. And then third and finally, donate, fund this work and help us get in front of others. We love working with MomCos, formerly MOPS, because those moms are hungry for help and hope. And so we get to give those conversations, and those are entirely funded by the work that people, or the support that people give us. MomCos can't pay us. I mean, they do. They pay us with like super gracious, Applebee's gift cards, but not payment like that I can feed my kids on for a regular amount of time. So that instead is allowed. I get to get paid on a monthly basis and give these free talks to MomCo groups either over Zoom or in person. I can pre-record them and send them. Like, it's a huge blessing to have donor support that lets us do that. So it's been 10 years of this ministry. That is wild to say. I have done this work as long as I taught in the classroom. That's actually especially true because then I got 6 months of teaching while doing this job. Oh, I was still like traveling and stuff. I didn't even mention that. I still did travel that I had signed up for originally, which was hectic. That was unfortunate. Every time I left, like, we lost momentum on the like, we're going places, this is going great. And you come back like, oh, all right. Let's go, people, with my classroom, not with Gospel Tech. But I distracted myself again. This work works because of support from donors like you. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. Flint and Iron is a ministry to spark purpose in youth, and the ministry of Gospel Tech is an extension of that to help young people and families use the best tech well. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of Anna and myself and our board. Thank you for your support, for your donations. If you do want to support us financially, gospeltech.net/donate is a spot you can do that. Being a 501c3, those are tax deductible for the current time until whatever happens with those laws, but it's still a thing. And we are so grateful to be able to do this work. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for applying the tools God has given us in terms of the 2 types of tech and reset, safe, ready, good, building hedges into your own family and into your own community so that we can raise kids who love God, who use the best tech well, and then who help their communities do the same. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, Nathan at gospeltech.net. You can find us at Love God Use Tech on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And you can join us next week as we continue this conversation about how we can love God and use tech. I look forward to talking with you then.